Howdy, I'm Tech, and today I'm going to be building and reviewing the Idobao Id80 V2. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the ride. The Id80 V2 is like the cooler younger brother with a better car, better house, and a better education. To continue the silly metaphor, Idobao saw the problems with their first kid, and then worked to fix them. This board features all the stuff people loved from the first Id80, with a few important changes, and we'll talk about those soon. The included accessories are spare screws, some rubber bump-ons, a medium quality USB-C cable, and some replacement hot swap sockets for if any break off. This keyboard's currently available for $200 in white, black, and pink color options, as well as ANSI or ISO support. In this case, I actually got the ISO layout version, which is my first experience with the layout. I figured out ISO is not my favorite layout, but I won't let that plague my opinion of the board as a whole. The main difference with ISO is you get the big Chongo enter key and a 1.25U shift. The V2 doesn't stray too far from home, keeping an integrated plate design and an overall aluminum chassis. However, it does differ in that it has a bottom plate made out of acrylic with cutouts for underglow. Another nice change is the detachable brass weight at the back, which looks really nice and adds a great amount of heft to the board. These two changes come together to make the board feel and look quite different than the first one. Idobao eventually offered an acrylic bottom for the Id80. However, I like their implementation on the V2 a lot more, with the cutouts for underglow. And in the background here, I'm just attaching the rubber transparent feet. These are relatively good non-slip. Like other Idobao boards, this board comes with Kale hot swap sockets and stock stabilizers, but as we'll see in a second, these aren't very good. So those sound pretty awful, and you could theoretically fix it with some lubing. So I'm going to show you how to take apart the board. First, unscrew all the screws on the bottom, pull out the brass plate, and then pull out the acrylic bottom. The Id80 was known for being pretty hollow, so they made some effort to combat that in the V2. They did this by cutting the acrylic bottom plate really thick so it fills in some of that empty space in the board. Now, if you're going to lube or replace the stabilizers, which I recommend doing, you're going to need to remove the PCB from the front plate. You do this by unscrewing it and then gently popping it out. Then, to remove the stabilizers, you use a pair of tweezers to squeeze the little prongs and then poke them through, and they should fall right out. I reached out to Prevail Key Company, and they were nice enough to send out these Durock V2 stabilizers. At only $24, I honestly recommend them for any decent build. Some of you have been asking how you can support the channel, and in this case, if you want to support the channel and save 5% on lubing supplies and stabilizers, you can click the link in the description to visit Prevail Key Company and use code HIPYO to get that discount. I was really excited to make this partnership, as I can help get you guys discounts on lubing supplies, as well as help out a small business and the channel. It's a win-win-win. If you guys want to know how to lube these, let me know and I might make a video in the future. The next step is just putting the board back together. With the ISO variant, I only had to put in 3 stabilizers, which saved quite a bit of time. I did this little bit off screen, but make sure you test the stabilizers before putting the board back together. This will save you a lot of time if you realized you might have installed them wrong. Additionally, with hot swap boards, some people prefer to test to make sure all of the sockets work before they put in their switches. You can do this with a pair of tweezers on the contacts. Let's talk a little bit about the build quality. For the price, I'm very impressed. It's a well-machined chunk of aluminum, and you really can't go wrong with that. Also, it's 700 grams heavier than the Id80 V1. This makes it feel much more premium in the hand, and overall, really nice. To compare the differences between the V1 and V2, I've used the same exact switches and keycaps. These are lubed and filmed Gateron Milky Yellows, and I'll also be using Infinity Cafe PBT keycaps from one of my last videos. Costing $60 more than the Id80 V1, some people might say that the V2 wouldn't be worth it. It's really subjective to what you want in a keyboard, but for the $60, you get the new acrylic bottom plate that improves acoustics and typing experience, as well as the improved underglow from that bottom plate, and you'll also get that nice brass weight at the back. Whether or not you think that extra $60 is worth it, that's entirely up to you. But stick around for that typing test, as this has some pretty interesting acoustics. And I mean, look at that booty. That's nice. That's a nice one. If you're in the market for something a bit more premium, check out their Crystal Keyboard Kit, which is a gasket-mounted ID80. It's currently in group buy, and I'll be reviewing it soon. A really important part of any custom keyboard is the firmware, so I'm going to show you how to flash VIA. First, click the link in the description and find the full guide in the Idobao Discord. Then, download this firmware made by a guy named Aslak. You also want to download VIA and QMK Toolbox. You'll need all of these. Next, you want to extract the file that you downloaded and open QMK Toolbox. You'll then use QMK Toolbox to find the file. For me, I just extracted it to the desktop, which made it a lot easier to find. You then want to put your keyboard into reset mode, which, for this one, you hold Alt and Escape. You'll see QMK Toolbox will recognize it, and then you just want to hit the flash button. Once you start flashing it, you'll see some weird stuff pop up, and you'll hear this noise. That means that you're ready to go and you can open VIA. VIA is my recommended firmware of choice. It gives you good control over key mapping, macros, lighting, and profiles. In this case, it lets you set 3 different layers, and you can change the underglow settings and brightness. My personal favorite are these rainbow ones, but you could do a solid color, it's fine. The lighting is really bright and really nice. It adds a super luxurious touch to this keyboard, and I honestly love it. Some people feel like underglow is tacky, but it's kind of that gamery aesthetic that I lean towards. Also, the white backlighting is a good touch, especially if you might be playing in a dark room. Let's take a look at a sound test. Overall, it still has some hollowness issues, but it sounds much thockier than the V1, and I think a silicone mod would solve it completely. Overall, I'm pretty happy with this board, and I'd be curious to compare it to the GMMK Pro. If you like this video, hit like, get subscribed, and join the Discord. I'm going to leave you guys with a sound test. Let me know what you think in the comments below.